Romulus is the latest film in the Alien Prometheus series and is about a group of space travelers who stumble across a xenomorph hive, so more than likely most of them are gonna die. It's an Alien film. Do I really need to praise the first two Alien films at this point? I mean, everyone said everything there is to say about them. They're masterclasses in the sci-fi genre. They turn Sigourney Weaver and the character Ripley into an icon. Alien is better than Aliens. Fight me. And my opinion on the rest of the Alien franchise ranges from to But regardless, I am always curious to see what a new Alien film can bring to the franchise because I love this series. This is one of the first movie franchises that got me really into the practical effects side of old cinema. So whenever I saw or read the interviews for this movie and saw that they were going to use a lot of practical effects for this film, that was the first green flag for me. And yes, there are a ton of practical effects used in this film, and they look awesome. Not just on the xenomorphs, but also the facehuggers. The facehuggers in this movie look like real spider, crab, scorpion looking creatures, and they look creepy as all hell. I won't lie, there were a ton of moments in this film where I was more afraid of the facehuggers than the actual xenomorphs themselves. That's not to say the xenomorphs look or are bad in this film at all. Far from it. They are awesome. It's great to see practical effects used on the xenomorphs once again, especially after whatever the hell Alien Covenant was doing with them. But seeing real actors really look into these things' faces, it just lends that much more credibility to their threat. But to be fair, it's not just the effects on the creatures themselves that look awesome, it's the effects that are used out in space. The Alien franchise is always at its best when it captures both the majesty and horror that space is, and this film brings that majesty and horror to the forefront. Just the opening where we're coasting through a whole bunch of space debris is both awe-inspiring, but also really eerie. And that also has to do with the sound design in this movie and how in space there is either no sound whatsoever or all of the sound feels drowned out. Everything technical about this movie I absolutely loved. And then there are the characters, which aren't bad, I would say. There's not a ton of characters in the film, and I would go as far as to say there are no bad performances in this film. Every single actor is bringing what the script needs of them. Unfortunately, not every single character is as fully fleshed out as others. A lot of characters in this movie are the typical alien archetypes, but that's not necessarily a bad thing when the performances are strong, and they do bring something to the characters that we didn't see before. And there are a couple characters who do bring something more to the table than we've seen in previous Alien films. Especially the character of Andy, played by David Johnson, whose character I will not spoil because after seeing the trailers for this film, they didn't give a ton away about who he is and his relation to the story as a whole, which I really do love. But let's just say his range of performance in this film, spectacular. And his character is so well defined in the beginning of this movie that as he grows in the film, it does feel natural. I like all the actors in this movie, and I do think the characters are okay, but he really is the standout. And while I wouldn't say this movie is scary as hell, my God, is it creepy. The dark hallways, the creeping cracking of the space station that you don't know entirely if it is the space station or whether it's a facehugger or xenomorph creeping up on them. It properly puts you on edge, not just by draining the sound from the film, but adding to the sound that's already there just a tad. So I won't lie, despite the nitpicks that I have with the first 2/3 of the movie, I was fully ready to give this movie an A- or an A, and then the last third happened. Every Alien movie has a second climax, and you're kind of expecting it if you're an Alien fan like I am. But when you see what they do with that climax, the first 2/3 of this movie is so good, so solid, and feels like a proper send-up to the first two Alien movies, and then in the last third, it feels like they brought in a ghostwriter who loved all of the worst Alien films and just decided, Let's do that. Let's include annoying callbacks to the previous Alien films, despite the fact that the first 2/3 stood on their own. Let's pull off a second climax that is so stupid that it makes people look at Alien Resurrection and think, you know what? They might have actually did that concept better. I was so on board with this film, and then the last third of the movie happened, and then it turned into one of the most disappointing conclusions I've seen in a film this year. I can't lie, the entire car ride home, that ending colored a lot of my thoughts on the first 2/3 of the film. The first 2/3, which, again, I absolutely loved. While the characters weren't the best, they were okay. The practical effects are fucking phenomenal, and there is a great sense of atmosphere to the entire film. Again, I was fully ready to give this film an A or an A-, but that ending sullied so much of my thoughts that while I don't hate the film, I don't love it nearly as much as I could have. I'm gonna give Alien Romulus a B. I think it's good, don't get me wrong, but greatness was right there. It was right in their reach, and then all of a sudden someone smacked their hand out of it. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for my review of Strange Darling, a movie that I can't wait to talk about. I need to talk about it. I can't wait to talk about it with you guys. It's just so... I need to talk about it. Again, thank you so much for watching. You guys are the best, and don't forget to click subscribe and click that bell icon down below to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd.